Hi, welcome to Trail Buddy. Today we're going to go over one of our wire harness kits, TB161. And we're going to start with the harness. It's the labeled harness. And then we'll go into the parts and pieces that come with this kit. So what you get in the kit is you'll get the wire harness TB160, which is our labeled wire harness. We'll go over the details of that in a minute. And then the descending parts, you're going to get the battery box band. You're also going to get the rubber grommet that protects the wire harness coming out of the front portion of the frame. You're going to get your rear brake switch, your blinker relay, a 12-volt horn, a 12-volt battery, which you will have to add the acid, and then finally the 12-volt ignition key switch. So the switch will come with two keys. This particular switch is on-off. What you'll also find in the box is you'll get the little wiring key or diagram, which tells you what color does what function, and you'll also get a lock set. So what this lock set is designed for is designed for the whole clone bike. So let's say you're using an original OEM frame. You are not going to use half the stuff in this box, but that's just the way we get it because everything's keyed the same. So let's say if you were to have a clone bike and you lost your key, chances are this should fit your application because it comes with a new seat lock. It'll come with a steering stem lock. But for the original Resto Mod stuff, you won't use any of that stuff. You'll use the ignition switch. And one thing to note, that the TB160 is really designed for using our parts and pieces, meaning our controller. That way, it's the only way we can really ensure that the plugs are pinned correctly. So what I mean by that is, you might see other controllers online that look almost exactly like ours, but they may not be pinned in the right location. So if you get this TB160 from us, or the entire kit, TB161, and buy our controllers, everything is guaranteed to fit. So our ignition key will sit in here, and also don't forget, if you want the headlight and the headlight bucket assembly, you're going to want to get the 12-volt version, which will plug again into this front portion here that goes inside the headlight bucket. One other key part that you could add to this kit is the speedometer. So the speedometers that we have on our website will also plug into this plug assembly here in the front. Now we've got everything labeled here for your convenience. So this pigtail here is labeled to go for speedometer. This pigtail here were headlight, this one right controller, and then so on and so forth. As you move down the bike, this one here is labeled for your ignition switch. Moving down again, we've got our rear brake controller, coil. So we try to make it as easy as we can to have each plug or wire or function labeled with an actual little label, like this one for instance says frame ground. Now we also include the kit our wiring key that tells each function and what color corresponds with the wire in that particular pigtail or plug. Right, so let's say for instance we've got our headlight. So the pink wire would be low beam, the yellow/white would be high beam, green, ground. So each one of those is labeled like that, and you can go through the entire booklet here just in case you want to start cutting into it or making your own plugs or your own adapters. We also have all of the mating plugs for these on our website available. So if you want to do your own thing and make your own plug but populate it yourself, we have those available as well. But again, these plug ends, for instance this one I'm holding in my hand, is for the CDI. This will plug right into our CDI. Now I just caution everybody again, the stuff that you see online or other places, they all look very similar. They all look like they come from the same spot, but they do not. You're mixing and matching parts when you start buying. Like us ourselves, we may make sure that we quality control or buy all from the same vendor, or we make sure that we specify which plug is populated in which way, so it works with our stuff, so you don't have a problem on your end having to hit the little latch and like repopulate and move this around to fit with whatever it is that you bought. Now we'll get into the parts and pieces. So what comes in this kit, again, TB161, you get the labeled harness, which is part number TB160. So in the kit itself, now I'm going to go over each piece that comes with it so you don't double buy. This is really designed for if you bought our aftermarket engine and are going to use this as a complementary piece. And buy some other parts a la carte. So the first thing that you'll get in the kit is the battery band that works with our battery box. So battery box is like this. It sits in here in the center. Grab the battery, and it's a really tight pull, but you gotta pull it up and over and get it to fit. But one other thing that you want to make sure that you're looking at when you're installing this is that your seat pan, depending on what you have, does not short out on this positive lead. Now, some tricks to do it. Sometimes there's a bit of space underneath the box itself to where the frame could hit. So what I'll do is I'll take these brackets and I'll slightly bend them up, so that way that this sits down just a little bit lower, and then you're going to want to bend this accordingly to fit as well. So, but one, make sure that you're not shortening on your seat pan. If you don't have your original cover, a nice trick is if you got a bunch of old tubes from your project, cut the tube in probably about a 6-inch length, cut it down the middle, and then put that over top of this as a nice cover. That makes a neat little cover. It doesn't look so bad, and it shields this from grounding or shorting out onto the seat pan. There isn't one thing that you want to note. If this is getting, let's say, too far to the back, which would make this sit up a little bit high in the bike, what we'll do is I'll grab a channel locks or an adjustable pliers, and I'll take this guy and I'll bend it, a certain amount of degrees until I get it to fit. So you're working this in to fit right into your frame, so that way that this isn't sitting too high. Again, you can bend it down. What I really like to do is these tabs. These are pretty strong, but I like bending these around and kind of massaging that in, so that way we don't hit anything. And that'll be the same thing with any other aftermarket battery box that you got. But there's just one note. Take this guy, bend it maybe towards the rear, so that way you can move it forward. But those are different tricks to fine-tune and fit these parts, to fit them to your frame. As we move on to the next, the kit also comes with the rear brake light switch. This is the one off the shelf, so there are extra plugs in here just in case you wanted to make your own. This will plug directly into our harness. The next item in the kit is our wire harness grommet. So now this pushes into the frame and isolates your harness from rubbing or hitting anything. One thing cool about this one is this elongated hole here is larger than an OEM original one, and the rubber is still soft. A lot of times when you get with the old ones, they're hard as a rock. So what I like to do myself when I'm installing this is I'll pull each individual plug through. Now it's kind of a chore, but I'll also use a little bit of WD-40 as I'm doing that to pull. And I don't go nuts because I'll usually be bathed in WD-40, but pull each plug through, and a little bit of WD-40 helps work that along. And then also I'll put a little bit here, so that way when I go to, let's say we've got the pigtail running through and my frame is here, then it helps press that in with a little bit of WD-40. But that's a cool note on this one, is this slot is larger. Again, it's pliable, it's easy to install. The next part of the kit is a standard blinker relay that plugs right into our harness. Again, all these parts and pieces are 12 volt. We have our horn, electric horn, so we've got the 2 spades here to connect it to the switch. And what I'll do here for this particular unit, if you buy it as is, and as it comes in the kit, is I like to bend it up about here, roughly 90 degrees, and then I will bolt this in through where the fender mounts on the triple tree. And it's got the little cover here to, you know, underneath this chrome. So that just protects that. Then we come to our ignition switch. So the ignition switch comes with 2 keys. This will plug right into the harness. And this one is on off. And what I talked about earlier in the video too is it's going to come with these extra parts and pieces, which are designed as a key set for the aftermarket clone frame. So this is the seat latch grabber, which is keyed to the same keys. And then what this guy is this is a piece here that would install on your steering neck inside the frame. And this plunger here would go in and out with the key. So what it does is that you turn the bike, it's almost like 90 degrees. You turn this, you push this plunger out, and it locks it. But these are clone parts. Most of the time, guys are using the original Honda frame, and you will not use these, but you will definitely use this. So on-off function, this plugs right into our harness. This is a good set. Next, and it also comes with the function key here, colors, is our 12 volt battery from Parts Unlimited. So we find that this is a really decent battery compared to some of the, what's called gray market batteries, where you have no idea how the lead is inside, the electrolyte fluid, the battery itself. These work pretty good. Now these little batteries are really tough to keep a charge, so what I like to do is I'll set up a battery tender lead on these. On my personal bike I do. So I'll plug it in and put the battery tender on the bike on the winter, or if I'm not going to use it for a couple months. But this is the last part that comes in the kit. It's a 12 volt battery. It fits our battery box. And this is a great little battery in terms of what you get for the price. And you have to tear off this piece here, put the acid in, and wait a certain amount of time. The instructions in the book tell you how long you want to wait before you put the cap on. So what you want to do is you want it to off gas, and you want all the little mats to soak into the fluid, and then you put the cap on, and then you charge it. So in the instructions here, or I have another video where it's talking about setting up your Trail 70 battery. That one is a really good one to watch to go over the details of this. But that's the last part in the kit that comes in TB161. So you can find this part and more parts on mytrailbuddy.com.